Silence. A deep, billowing voice echoed from the far end of that massive chamber. All that is truly of my interest is the planet that lies at the core of your star system. The rest is inconsequential. But as I am a benevolent god, I have seen fit to offer you a place within my kingdom. You small beings, living short mortal lives, have no understanding of the breadth or width of the sight of a god. That world is the property of a god, and as such mortals have no claim to it. You will bow or be destroyed. The choice is yours.
What a waste of time,
an elderly woman within the group said, standing right alongside all of the other envoys and representatives from the worlds within the system. Was one of the elders from Hagara, one that Delius knew quite well. She was from a different village, but he always thought highly of her. As far as the elders go, she tended to display her wisdom quite well, and made very firm decisions. But, I see, now that Delius is here, we can actually have a conversation. How are things going, Delius? I saw the hollow broadcast of your wedding. You danced wonderfully. I was actually quite surprised to hear that she was only your first wife. A young man such as you shouldn't be dallying about. You need to find yourself some more wives, young man. The key to a strong people is strong fruition.
Yes, Elder Lolabay. Thank you for your compliment. Honestly, in terms of wives, my wife is actually siding with you, pressuring me to be more proactive. I find it a bit tedious, though.
Elder Lolabay,
one of the other representatives said, sounding frustrated. You haven't spoken to your representative for the Solari a single time since you arrived, and yet you waste time talking to Delius. What is your reason? Do you not want to bring an end to this madness? To talk some reason to them? Oh, I'm afraid such a thing is not possible. Madness was assured from the very beginning. You cannot expect anything else when talking to fools. Yes, I know their kind quite well. Fools never see the forest for the trees. They exist in a single state of belief in mind, and destroy or confront anything that challenges it. There is no hope in changing the mind of a fool. They foolishly believe with absolute certainty that they stand on the side of a god, and with this idea behind them, they are able to justify any acts that they commit. They believe, in fact, that they are righteous, no matter the sins they commit, because God is on their side, even going so far as to call Delius here, in hopes of destroying what some view as a god. It's all foolishness. You cannot argue with a fool. If you argue with a fool, then a foolish argument is all you'll have. I much prefer spending my time talking to someone who has reason.
You blasphemous old woman!
One of the representatives for the Solari shouted, as the other members of their respective worlds looked to find all of them greatly offended.
You dare to call us, nay, our god, a
fool? Blasphemy of the highest order. You should be destroyed where you stand. Talking of logic and reason, claiming ownership of a world that a wretched old woman such as you could scarcely walk upon. Your mortal body would crumble under its greatness. You can't even fathom it. You exist in the presence of a godly beast, meant to serve the gods themselves, and think it nothing more than another rock in your tiny system, claiming ownership of something you have no claim or right to. Disgusting. One of the golden-robed individuals replied, as all of them looked very hatefully in old Miss Lola's direction. No claim or right, you say? Couldn't walk upon the surface of it. Well, I'll have you know, young man, I was walking upon the surface of that world since the day I was born. I have lived on it since before the stars that circle it now were ever born. I watched the skies beyond it as they formed. You should show some respect to your elders, young man. But, once again, you cannot argue with a fool. Lies! And more blasphemy! The man shouted, now beginning to look enraged. I've had enough of this. You and whoever your people are will be annihilated. Lies, deceit, false claims of godly origin. Guards, get this wretched thing from my sight, the individual said as he began backing away. And from the walls, two exceptionally large figures that at first appeared to be simple decoration, massive decorative suits of armor, clad in gold, lining the walls of this massive room. But as he gave the order, two of these statues began to alight as the crevices in the walls from which they were stored lit up like a beacon, and the sound of some sort of electronic devices on the interior sparked them to life as they removed themselves from their crevices, their footsteps shaking the room as they began to make their way out, donning massive shields and swords, each now glowing a vibrant energy as they stomped towards the elder. Oh dear, those look rather big, the elder said, staring up at them, seeming unafraid and absolutely unflinching in their presence, regardless of how quickly they seemed to be stomping towards her. Oh, whatever shall I do? I'm afraid I'm not much of a fighter, she said, tilting her head sideways as she looked up at them, still leaning on the hardened cane that she held in her grasp, as all of the other members of the respective councils began to back away rapidly, yelling in panic. You can't be serious! She is a planetary representative! This is an act of war! They shouted as these Goliath golden soldiers approached within range, raising the weapons they held in their grasp above their heads. As suddenly, in an explosion of wind and a burst of sound like a shockwave, Delius suddenly appeared behind them, just a short distance, sheathing the blade that he held in his hand back in to its holder, beginning to take steps closer towards the golden eidolon figure at the end of the room, sitting upon the massive throne. What in the... how did he... one of the Solari representatives shouted, as suddenly the gargantuan golden figures began to fall apart, their entire bodies sliding apart as clean marks of being cut through
in countless segments of their body, revealed themselves, separating them into dozens of pieces each. As the gargantuan pieces crumbled to the ground, sparks flying, surges of electricity arcing out from it, all of the pieces bouncing back and forth as smoke rose from the crumbling remains of these gargantuan machines.
What in the world? That's not possible,
one of the Solari representatives said as his eyes began to glance towards Delius, slowly, methodically, and without a doubt, in a level of fright.
You, what are you? You dare to challenge a god?
Delius stopped his forward movement for just a moment to turn to the man, giving him a smile and a direct look. Well, if they piss me off nice and good, why the hell not? If you claim you're a god, you're a pretty shit one if you decide to randomly slaughter old ladies. I don't really care what you want to call yourself, what kind of god you claim to be. If you ask me, that's just plain not nice. So you're damn right. I'm gonna challenge it, Delius said as he turned back towards the figure sitting upon the golden throne, who, before, was somewhat carefree, simply sitting upon the massive golden throne, lined with pillows on all sides, surrounded by those flowing golden cloaks that extend from the shoulder pads and helmet. They almost seemed bored with the going-ons of this entire thing. But suddenly, they were sitting much more upright, paying much more attention as Delius approached.